Have you ever had one of those days where nothing is technically wrong, and yet something inside you feels heavy? No tragedy, no bad news, no obvious reason, just a quiet sadness that sits in your chest like it belongs there. You wake up, you go through your routine, you smile when you're supposed to, but deep down there's this strange emptiness. And the worst part is, you can't even explain it. You start asking yourself, why do I feel like this? And when you don't find an answer, it gets even more frustrating. Because how do you fix something when you don't even understand what's broken? If you've ever felt this way, I want you to know something important. There is a reason. It may not be obvious, it may not be loud, but your mind and your heart, they never create emotions without a cause. Sometimes the reason is hidden beneath layers of silence, layers of habits, layers of things you've learned to ignore. You see, we often believe that sadness needs a big reason, a loss, a failure, a heartbreak. But the truth is, sadness doesn't always come from what happened. Sometimes it comes from what never happened, from what you needed but never received, from what you felt but never expressed, from what you carried but never released. Think about your daily life for a moment. How many times do you stop yourself from feeling something fully? Maybe you felt hurt, but you told yourself it's not a big deal. Maybe you felt overwhelmed, but you said, others have it worse. Maybe you felt lonely, but you distracted yourself with your phone, your work, your routine. Little by little, these moments build up, not in a dramatic way, but quietly, like drops of water filling a glass you never notice until one day it overflows. And that overflow doesn't always look like tears. Sometimes it looks like this unexplained sadness, a heaviness with no name. There was a man once, someone who seemed perfectly fine from the outside. He had a stable job, a decent social life, and nothing particularly wrong in his world. People described him as normal, even lucky. But every evening when he returned home, there was this strange feeling he couldn't shake. He would sit in his room, staring at nothing in particular, and feel this quiet sadness. Not intense, not overwhelming, just there, like a background noise that never fully disappeared. At first, he ignored it. He told himself, this is nothing. Everyone feels this sometimes. But the feeling stayed. Days turned into weeks. Weeks turned into months. One day, he finally asked himself an honest question. When was the last time I truly felt understood? And suddenly, something clicked. He realized it had been years since someone had truly listened to him. Years since he had opened up without fear of being judged or dismissed. Years since he had allowed himself to be vulnerable. He wasn't sad for no reason. He was sad because a part of him had been alone for a very long time.
You see, one of the deepest psychological truths is this. Humans are not designed to carry everything alone. But in today's world, we've become very good at pretending we can. We distract ourselves. We stay busy. We scroll, we watch, we consume. Anything to avoid sitting with our own thoughts. And in doing so, we slowly disconnect, not just from others, but from ourselves. That disconnection, it doesn't always scream. It whispers. It shows up as restlessness, as emptiness, as that quiet sadness you can't explain. Another reason you might feel this way is emotional suppression. From a young age, many of us are taught, directly or indirectly, that certain emotions are not okay. Don't cry. Be strong. Move on. It's not that serious. So we learn to push things down, to smile when we're hurting, to act okay even when we're not. But emotions don't disappear just because we ignore them. They stay. They wait. And eventually, they find their way back to the surface. Not as a clear memory, not as a specific event, but as a feeling you can't explain because the original cause has been buried too deep. Imagine carrying a bag on your back every single day. At first, it's light. You don't even notice it, but every time you ignore your feelings, every time you silence your emotions, something gets added to that bag. A little hurt, a little disappointment, a little frustration. Over time, the bag becomes heavier, and one day, you wake up feeling exhausted without knowing why. That exhaustion, that heaviness, it's not random. It's the weight of everything you never allowed yourself to feel. There's also another layer to this, something even more subtle. Sometimes you feel sad not because something is wrong, but because something is missing. Not a person, not an event, but a sense of meaning. You can have a routine, you can have stability, you can have everything that looks right on the outside and still feel empty on the inside. Because deep down, you're not connected to something that feels real to you. You're just going through the motions. Wake up, work, eat, scroll, sleep, repeat. At first, it feels normal, but over time, something inside you starts asking questions. Is this it? Is this all my life is supposed to be? And even if you don't consciously think about these questions, your mind feels them. That feeling often shows up as sadness. Not because your life is bad, but because it lacks depth. It lacks connection. It lacks something that makes you feel truly alive. There was a woman who once described this feeling perfectly. She said, "I don't feel broken. I just don't feel anything strong enough to make me feel alive." And that's the thing about this kind of sadness. It's not always intense. Sometimes it's just dull. A quiet emptiness, a lack of excitement, a sense that something is missing, but you can't quite reach it. Another powerful reason behind this unexplained sadness is comparison. Not the obvious kind, but the silent kind. You see people on social media, smiling, achieving, living what seems like perfect lives. And even if you don't consciously feel jealous, a part of your mind starts questioning. Am I doing enough? Am I behind? Why doesn't my life feel like that? These thoughts are subtle. They don't always come with strong emotions, but they slowly chip away at your sense of contentment. And over time, they create this underlying dissatisfaction, a feeling that you're somehow not enough, even if you can't explain why. All of these things, emotional suppression, disconnection, lack of meaning, silent comparison, they don't always show up clearly. They blend together. They hide beneath your awareness. And what you feel on the surface is just a quiet sadness with no obvious reason. But here's something important to understand. This feeling is not your enemy. It's a message. Your mind, your emotions, they are trying to tell you something. Not loudly, not aggressively, but gently. Pay attention. Something needs your care. Something inside you is asking to be seen. The problem is,
We often try to get rid of this feeling as quickly as possible. We distract ourselves. We tell ourselves to snap out of it. We look for quick fixes. But what if, instead of running from it, you sat with it? What if you asked yourself, what am I really feeling right now? Where is this coming from? What part of me needs attention? Not to judge, not to fix immediately, just to understand. Because sometimes the reason you feel sad for no reason is because you've never given yourself the space to truly listen.
And when you do, something shifts. You start noticing patterns. You start connecting dots. You start understanding yourself in a way you never did before. And that understanding, it doesn't instantly remove the sadness, but it transforms it. It turns confusion into clarity. It turns heaviness into awareness. And slowly, that unexplained sadness begins to make sense. You begin to see it was never for no reason. It was just waiting for you to notice. And maybe, right now, as you sit with these thoughts, there's a part of you that feels a little seen, a little understood. And that's where healing begins. Not in fixing everything overnight, not in forcing yourself to feel better, but in simply acknowledging, I feel this way, and that's okay. Because your emotions, even the quiet, confusing ones, they are a part of you, and they deserve your attention, not your avoidance. So the next time you feel that unexplained sadness, don't rush to escape it. Pause, breathe, and gently ask yourself, what is my heart trying to tell me? You might not get the answer immediately, but the fact that you're willing to listen, that alone changes everything.